straight people are divided, but when something happens to their community, they come together. And with gay people, I feel that they like to separate themselves, like with the different categories, sexualized categories like bears and twinks and what are you, mask for mask and stuff like that. If we put that stuff away and just leave that for the bedroom or for the bar or for Grindr and actually show your true self outside of those apps and stuff like that, I think we would get along more with each other and actually know each other for who we are.
You know, being a fairy used to be like really bad. Because like where I'm from, like my grandfather used to tell me these stories about how he would go queer rolling in downtown Dallas, and like you just go around and beat people up because they were more effeminate.
I mean, when I think of pause, I think of condoms and staying safe, as bad as that is, or as not bad as that is. But I think that everyone should stay safe and being positive, even nowadays with all the medication there is and all the ways around it. You can meet a lot of positive people who are very healthy, and I've certainly met some that run marathons and do different things, but at the same time it's a very scary thing because it still kills people all the time.
Whenever I see like somebody's, or whenever I would see somebody's like profile that just that they write that they're pause, I would like think to myself like, wow, that takes a lot of, or that must take a lot of confidence, and I don't know. So confidence, I always see them as very confident people, and they're always like their profiles are always very like, you know, confident things inside of them. So. Yeah.
I had a friend the other day who said they took their mom to a drag show and just how shocked she was about how out there they are and how they're not afraid to say anything and they're just so upfront. And it's not far from my experience with drag queens. They're just so out there, so open, kind of the loud and proud mascots of LGBTQ community. And it's important. I think it's awesome.
The majority of guys who I've dated in the past have been bisexual. A lot of them with like very mixed like endings with me, I guess would be the best way to say it. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but for me, like the majority of the encounters I've had with people who are bisexual kind of are just confused in the end to me, or they just haven't really realized what they really want yet. But that's just been my experiences.
I've met people that are fully bisexual, and then I met people that are bisexual for the time being. And then the other side of me wants to say is that bisexuality is like being gay or being lesbian. It's a free range of who you want to be, and that it does not matter with female or male. As for pansexual, I'll tell you this, there's a lot of people that don't want to be labeled, but then there's a lot of people that want to be labeled. And those people are the ones to be called pansexuals or bisexuals or whatever type of sexuals, because they feel the need that there's not a space in them in the LGBTQ community, so they want to make up a name for themselves. And what I'm saying is that if you want to make a name for yourselves, you can't be you don't want to have a label, because everybody will have a label.
Pansexuality is boys, girls, people who don't choose to identify as anything, people who are trans, people just like, it's kind of vague almost. But when people hear it and they associate bi, or they associate bi with two versus pan with all, and they like, oh, so he just like, like my joke, people joke with me like, oh, so you just like fuck anything, versus a bi person who I feel like, I've known people who are bi who are like, oh, no, you've got to choose. Like, or I had a roommate years ago who was like, bisexual people don't exist, or they're selfish, or they just need to choose. And I think that's horrible, to be honest, because once again, it goes back to a person's identity, and it's like a person can like both, and they can have the idiosyncrasies of, maybe they like sleeping with guys, but they prefer intimate personal relationships with women, or vice versa, or any combination that they choose to. I just think it's bullshit that people are like, no, you gotta choose. You gotta choose. It's either one or the other, bro. You can't do both. You gotta one or the other. And that, you know, like, oh, so you, like, for guys, if you slight more with, oh, well, I prefer sleeping with men more, then it's like, oh, so you're just gay and you haven't come out yet. And I mean, bi women, I feel, are, you know, they're fetishized. Like, I feel like bi men are demonized because they have to choose. And then I feel like bi women are fetishized because men can go, oh, she likes sleeping with chicks, so, you know, she's down to do, like, a whole bunch of stuff, you know, versus, you know, a guy is being told to choose. I think it's horribly fucked up. I think that really it boils down to it's none of that person's business. It's none of that person's business to have to rationalize in their heads, like, oh, wait, it doesn't make any sense because if they like one and the other, but they like certain aspects, like, no, it has to be you like it this way or you don't like it the other way. It just all boils down to like very binary, and it's not a person's, you know, it's none of their business. They don't have to prove anything to that person. I know by friends, they enjoy it, they deal with those questions, or they're just like, fuck off, I don't have to answer this at all. It just is what it is for them.
I think it'd be really cool if there was a show where it goes more in depth with bisexuality, transgender, but have somebody that's like true and that's not no Caitlyn Jenner. I think she plays a big part of our community, but kind of in a bad way. And I liked her at first, but then when I realized it, I was like, who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for your fans, or are you rooting actually for yourself? And I think people need to start rooting for themselves and actually figuring themselves out than worrying about their fans or their quote-unquote friends.